On Guard was one of our earliest blends. It was created through the combined experience of our wellness advocates, along with research conducted on the individual oils. It was formulated for a very specific purpose, and there has been a mountain of anecdotal evidence pointing to its effects. That made us really excited to have the chance to scientifically validate the results that people kept telling us they were having with the oil. We did our very first research project with On Guard in 2010, and it has been actively studied since then. So we're looking at 10 years of research at this point. Today, I'm going to share some of that research with you, specifically a groundbreaking study we conducted in 2014. But in order to understand these scientific results about On Guard, I need to talk a little bit about epigenetics. I promise this is relevant. Imagine that there were switches in your DNA that told your cells to do certain things and to stop doing others. These switches can be toggled based on what your body needs or how it can adapt to its environment. This is the concept behind epigenetics. On a very high level, it is the study of how lifestyle factors affect which genes are expressed and to what degree. It's not a change in your DNA, just what instructions your DNA gives your body. This means that the things you eat, the products you use, and maybe even the things you think all play into how your genes behave. And maybe even more exciting, research leads us to believe that this gene expression can be passed on to your children. Big picture, the things you do today change how your newborn baby's DNA is expressed and how your DNA is expressed. The implications of this are enormous. So what do essential oils have to do with epigenetics? You might be wondering if I'm about to tell you that essential oils can flip switches in your DNA. Maybe I am. I'm excited to talk for a few minutes about a study that really opened our eyes to how essential oils interact with cells on a biochemical level. And hopefully by the end, you'll feel as excited as I do about the connection between essential oils and epigenetics. First, let me give you a little background on the doTERRA BioSeq study. This was a large in vitro study, meaning we were looking at cells growing in petri dishes. While this doesn't show us exactly what might be going on inside a human body, this type of study is absolutely critical. What it really comes down to is this. If we want to do studies on humans so we can show the efficacy of essential oils, we need to have evidence that it's going to work. So, back in 2014, we took about 20 doTERRA essential oils and blends and began looking for biochemical information on how these essential oils work down on a cellular level. We spent most of 2016 on intense analysis of the results, and then we published our research in 2017. There was so much information that we learned from this one study. I'm still looking at the research 6 years later. Good science takes years of research, study, and application. And what we've learned really gives us a good foundation for future studies. So, let's jump into the actual study. Now, this study was special in a lot of ways. BioSeq discovered a way to grow multiple types of cells together. This is incredibly important because having multiple cell types together more closely mimics what you'd find in a complex organism, like a human. This makes the study much more informative than just testing on a single type of cell in a petri dish. Having the cells growing together allows them to interact with each other. We were then able to look at the interaction, as well as how the whole environment and the interaction changes when an essential oil is introduced. I mentioned that this study was special. It was also groundbreaking. Having these multiple cell types together is a step between single cells in a petri dish and an actual organism. We have a lot more control, which helps us see exactly what's happening down on that cellular level. And because doTERRA is committed to not doing our research in animal models, this type of study is one way for us to be able to test essential oils on more complex systems. Altogether, we created 8 different cell systems for testing. Now, when I say a system, I'm talking about groups of different cell types. It's really a complex community of cells, and the cell's behavior changes depending on the other types of cells that are also in the group. Think of it this way. If you put a group of women in a room who are all about the same age, and then introduced, say, a puppy into the room, they would behave very differently than if you put a group of babies and women together and then introduced a puppy. Different types of cells respond in different ways depending on the circumstances. Now, let's say you put a group of women of all different ages together, or women of the same age but different nationalities. You would find different interactions in each case. And this is essentially what we did in the study. Except instead of introducing a puppy, we introduced On Guard. So, one system might be we created a system for growth, or a group of cells whose function was to grow. And another might be an inflammatory system, just depending on what we were trying to study. The reason this is so incredible is that nothing like this has ever been done on this scale before. After we created the cell systems, we stressed them by increasing inflammation. We then introduced doTERRA On Guard into 4 systems so we could see different cellular responses. The thing we wanted to know was whether On Guard would upregulate or downregulate biochemical pathways. In other words, would it switch on or switch off the cell's responses? What happened next was remarkable. On Guard showed multiple activities on a cellular level. It was supportive of cellular health. It helped cells regain balance after being stressed. It helped a cell get back to its non-stressed state. This is where epigenetics comes in. On Guard showed downregulation of pathways that had been overstimulated, and it showed upregulation of pathways that had been suppressed. What this means is that On Guard actually turned up expression of genes that encouraged healthy functions, such as growth, metabolism, and communication. But it also turned down the genes that were associated with unhealthy states, like unbalanced division and overstimulation. It switched on genes that encouraged good responses and switched off or turned down the volume of genes that encouraged negative responses. Think of it like this. Imagine a symphony where the trumpets were way too loud, the violins were out of tune, and the flutes were playing much too quietly to hear. That would sound unpleasant and unbalanced, right? Along comes the conductor, helps the violins tune, tells the trumpets to quiet down, and brings up the volume of the flutes. At last, harmony and balance. On Guard, in the case of our cell systems, was an amazing symphony conductor. We saw On Guard do some incredible things in this study. Again, it helped immune balance and regulation, supported a healthy inflammatory response, participated in antioxidant activity, influenced multiple pathways of communication, and balanced cellular function after being stressed. All of this was possible with the power of a pure, natural, essential oil blend. And one of the really neat things we saw was that the blend of On Guard had synergistic behavior. When testing each individual oil from the blend in these same systems, we didn't see the same results. It really was the unique combination of the oils in On Guard that produced these effects. So we've talked about a lot of data, and you may be wondering what the key takeaway from this study is. Well, it's a pretty amazing takeaway. During this study, On Guard demonstrated cellular renewing properties, healthy inflammatory response, and immunomodulation, which is the ability to affect the immune system. What this suggests is that On Guard is so much more than just a blend that supports the immune system. It has many benefits and works on multiple pathways and mechanisms throughout the body. I've spent a lot of time with On Guard as a result of this study, and I have to tell you, it has consistently exceeded my expectations in research. From how it works with the skin to how it interacts on a cellular level, it continues to intrigue and excite me, both as a user and as a scientist. On Guard has been truly impressive at every step. I knew I liked On Guard before the study, but let me just tell you, it has become a staple for me and my family. This amazing study was a crucial step forward in showing the efficacy of essential oils. It was the first study of its kind, and it was evidence of the effect of a complex essential oil blend on a complex cellular system. On Guard showed diverse and complementary actions in supporting healthy cellular functions. And again, while we can't take in vitro work and translate it directly into human benefits, this research opens up new questions and lays a foundation for further studies on immune function and other complex human systems. In fact, some of these studies are already underway, and we can't wait for the results. If any of you are curious and want to learn more, or maybe you're just a science and research nerd like me, you can check out the full study online. There's so much information there. Before I end, I just want to share one last thought about the power of essential oils. This study showed that essential oils can play a role in how genes are expressed. We need to do more research and more study to understand this better. But just the thought that there's a connection between oils and epigenetics is truly astonishing. It's just one more piece of evidence that the gifts of the earth help us take control of our own health and wellness.